Now, it's no secret that the first thing most can see when breaking down Canelo vs. Berlanga is the situation where Canelo either stops Berlanga to the body, busts Berlanga's face up, or counters Berlanga, since Berlanga has a habit of making mistakes like this here. The speculation and maybe even fact is that Edgar Berlanga's chinny, and although Canelo hasn't stopped an opponent since Caleb Plant, the majority are baking that he will get Berlanga out of there inside of 4 rounds, or even in a round Berlanga predicts he will stop Canelo, which would be round 6. It's not hard to see how Alvarez has success in this fight, and there's really no reason to dissect it since it's pretty much served on a platter. However, because I like to keep it fair in this building, and because I believe everyone that steps foot inside of that ring deserves a fair chance, regardless of the skill gap or experience, I believe it's my due diligence, the same way I centered a breakdown around Ryan Garcia's chances to defeat Devin Haney, to shift more of the focus on what I think Edgar Berlanga's game plan is. Now, it doesn't mean it will work, and it doesn't mean this is the approach he will be taking. I want to make that clear, but ever since the second press conference and all the heated exchanges, as much as this bout had cringe written all over it, and as much as I, like many others, rolled my eyes at the things Berlanga was saying in his interviews, I still dialed in and decided to look deeper into what I believe is going on with Edgar Berlanga. I'm of the notion that Edgar Berlanga baited Canelo in with a hot and cold approach mentally because Team Berlanga plans to take that same approach into the ring. If you paid attention to his words, Berlanga was borderline obsessed with bringing up how boxing is mostly mental and how not only he, but Canelo knows that as well. He was adamant in several interviews that it's all about the mind. Not only warned Canelo of his IQ being better than Canelo assumes, but that his power is also something that shouldn't be overlooked. Caleb Plant even called a stray by Berlanga at the press conference when Edgar made a comparison between himself and Plant. Now, because they've already had an ongoing beef, many just took it as trash talk or a random outburst. But I feel like there's a deeper reason why Berlanga even decided to go there in the first place. And the reason is this. For those of you who don't know, when Edgar Berlanga was up and coming, I'm talking before Top Rank and ESPN, most experts considered him a slick boxer, which was confusing when watching him because with his aggressive offense and off-balance footwork, he looks like the complete opposite of slick. This is the thing though, what a lot of people aren't aware of is Edgar Berlanga knows how to fight on the back foot. This boy actually knows how to fight backing up and can even box a bit. Add that in with the fact that his left hook and right hand are deceptively quicker on the inside than perceived, and you can kind of get an idea of what I'm getting at here. This is what I think the game plan is and why we hear Berlanga being so vocal about using his jab. Now, although most would abandon Berlanga even having a typical puncher's chance, I'm under the impression that Berlanga not only believes he can hurt Canelo, but that he has full confidence in the power he possesses. I can see a situation where Berlanga goes into the ring and not only plays off the ropes, but looks a lot like Jermell Charlo did against Canelo for the first few rounds, in an attempt to not only make Canelo more comfortable being the aggressor, but also bait Canelo into believe that he, Canelo, is in full control with his presence being felt right off the bat, just so that Berlanga can counter Canelo with something he doesn't expect or see coming. I mean, it's a no-brainer. The punches you don't see coming are usually the ones that hurt the most, which goes back to the mind games and the hot and cold approach I pointed out at the press conferences. Yeah, Edgar Berlanga is planning on going into the ring and he's going to try to knock Canelo Alvarez out. Believe it or not, this motherfucker is serious. The only difference is, unlike Jaime Munguia, Berlanga doesn't plan on going in there all reckless or overzealous. And if you heard what he had to say about Munguia's performance in his bout against Canelo, Berlanga wasn't a fan of Munguia and Freddie Roach's game plan. One thing about Berlanga is, although he can come across as undisciplined at times and even makes mistakes, Edgar's also very poised when he wants to be. You know, he takes his time and he has extremely underrated vision if you pay attention. Now, that doesn't mean that if he catches Canelo with something preferably midway like he predicts, it will KO or drop Canelo, because one thing we know about Canelo Alvarez is that's a strong man, and that chin is amazingly granted. I'm sure Berlanga's team, just like the rest of the world, already knows that. But if he can even stun or catch Canelo off guard with something that has impact, it could and might just throw Canelo off of his game plan and force Alvarez to become more hesitant while being the aggressor. Because let's face it, as smart as Canelo is, Canelo wants to beat the fuck out of Berlanga, and won't nothing piss Canelo off more than Berlanga even having the slightest bit of a big moment or moments similar to Caleb Plant when he fought Canelo. The only difference here is Berlanga fighting off the back foot and being successful would have way more of an effect than when Plant did it, and it's obviously because of the power. Another thing Berlanga might have been hinting at this whole time, and that's also what I believe Team Berlanga is banking on. One thing about Canelo Alvarez is he's known to gas going down the stretch, and usually has to dig it out when fatigue starts to set in, which is why the size and work rate of Bivol ended up being too much for him in that fight. Bivol somewhat gave a blueprint on how to defeat Canelo if you're bigger than him. Wear him down with activity, match him by fighting in spurts, and consistently work behind your jab. Which is probably why Jaime Munguia just recently advised Berlanga to use his jab, and why we hear Berlanga speaking so highly about the jab. If Berlanga can stun or hurt Canelo midway to the point where Canelo may be gassed or wearing down, he can not only mesh the Bivol and Munguia game plans together, but it would make for a better fight than people expect. Remember, Canelo's getting up there in age. He somewhat showed his age in his last few fights, so I'm guessing from Berlanga's point of view, if he can gain Canelo's respect when Canelo least expects it, Berlanga can start to control the fight at a time when Canelo appears to be more vulnerable physically. Does that mean any of that will work? Absolutely not. Does that mean Canelo won't lay Berlanga's ass out early in the fight? No. But that also doesn't mean it won't work, dog. That also doesn't mean with the right game plan, guys can't be successful. Hey, this is boxing. That's all I'm saying. But I'm sure David Benavidez and company are no strangers to that analysis. And this is probably why you hear fighters like Jesse Bam Rodriguez coming out now and saying that he believes Canelo versus Berlanga will be a better fight than most are anticipating it to be. With all that being said though, if you feel like Canelo's too smart and too experienced for any setups or traps by someone many believe is a very mediocre fighter in EDGAR Berlanga, I don't blame you. Hey, I don't blame you at all, because when people saw the footage of Canelo Alvarez training with Teofimo Lopez and what appeared to be light sparring, the perception and theory was that maybe Canelo was preparing for a future bout with Terence Crawford, or even that Teofimo was preparing for moving up to face Crawford. But I'm of the notion that trainer Eddie Reynoso has an idea of what Team Berlanga is brewing up, and decided to put Canelo in there with someone lighter on their feet and a lot quicker physically than the larger Berlanga. I remember making the Victor Ortiz-Mayweather comparison for the Tank and Martin fight, but if that template fits any bout, it's definitely this one. All I have left to say is, for all my Boricuas and New Yorkers who are standing behind Berlanga, my work here is done, bruh. There's nothing more I can do for you as far as optimism is concerned. And for the Mexicano Chicano fan base, this should be a walk in the park for the one everyone calls Cinnamon. Or is it? Guess we'll just have to see this Saturday. Pop off.